Hi, everybody. It's Elektra Yao, artist visa lawyer located in New York City, the heart of the arts world. I wanted to talk to you this evening about LinkedIn. I have a previous video on YouTube about LinkedIn for lawyers, LinkedIn for artists, and in that video I talked about different ways to utilize LinkedIn. So I'm going to expand on that, and then I'm also going to talk about how LinkedIn can help you in your career in general and in the O1 world or EB1A world. So I know that LinkedIn is very frequently used by non-attorneys, right? By non-artists. So people who are working in the corporate world, people who are looking for a job, people who maybe are in college and want to start developing their professional connections. And there's very few discourse about how artists and how creative people can use LinkedIn to their advantage. So, as I said in my first video, I talked about this a lot, and I'm going to expand upon this idea on how LinkedIn is going to be your secret weapon to expanding your reach and establishing you as a thought leader within your artistic and creative career. And after, we're going to talk about how you could utilize LinkedIn for your O1 or your EB1A petition. So, how can you utilize LinkedIn within your artistic career? So, number one, the first thing that you should adopt in terms of mentality is just understanding that this is another platform, right? It's just another way to connect with people. Now, in the Instagram world, the TikTok world, the YouTube world, I mean, you're connecting with different types of people. And the same thing for LinkedIn. Just understand who your audience is. And as a creative person, you might get a little bit confused, like, who is my audience on LinkedIn? Like, who do I actually want to connect with on LinkedIn? But if you are, for example, a creative director, right? You want to follow the actual agencies whose campaigns that you like. You want to follow HR representatives or HR personnel of the companies that you like, that the companies that you aspire to potentially work in. You want to follow people whose careers serve as an example to you and potentially connect with them. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to really scope out your audience. You want to really scope out who you can potentially connect with, not in terms of, oh, who's going to get me a job or how can I get a job, but in terms of who can I learn from, who is delivering value through their post. And then the follow-up question, if you're very nifty, is how can I deliver value and then get noticed by these different professionals within the field that I want to work in. So again, the first thing you want to do is scope out the professionals that you want to connect with. Why would you want to connect with certain people? You want to connect with certain people because they're working in the companies that you aspire to work in. They're doing interesting things in their career, so they serve as an example for you to emulate, and therefore serve as a potential person that you could reach out to connect with on a more personal basis, right? Kind of like pick their brain or take them out for coffee or kind of just hang out with them digitally and network with them. So, number one, scope out your audience. And your audience is going to be people that you're potentially connecting with because, number one, there are companies that you like their campaigns, you like what they're doing. And number two, individuals who serve as an example for you to emulate in terms of further developing your career. So again, we're not talking about looking for a job. We're just talking about examples for you to follow and companies that you want to stay abreast of, that you want to know more information about. So that's the first thing that you want to do. The second thing that you want to do is you want to start to study how content is being delivered on LinkedIn. There are tons of courses on how to communicate on LinkedIn. Some are free, some are very low cost. And I wouldn't go and pay for these courses just yet. I would investigate how LinkedIn is being utilized by creatives and by non-creatives. So start to scope out what are the different ways that the different industries are communicating. Obviously, an attorney's post is going to look very different than someone who is a non-attorney. They're just going to look different because the nature of the professions are different. So that's the second thing that you want to do. You really want to start to analyze how people are drafting content. Are they including video? I use video all the time on LinkedIn, for example. Are they doing static posts? Are they doing lives? What are they doing that is working? And of course, you want to contextualize this. Something that is working for, I don't know, a software engineer might not necessarily work for you. People who are constantly sharing updates, are they getting a lot of likes? Are they getting a lot of engagement? And also understand, what is it that you want to do with the post? Are you trying to elicit engagement? Are you trying to have people comment and engage with you? And if that's the case, then study posts that have content that engages people. Or are you just trying to remain top of mind? Are you trying to just have a presence that people can see and people can notate about you when you are on LinkedIn? So being intentional with the content that you are researching, and consequently putting out. What sort of content will you be putting out, and what is going to work? Now, this is a great theory and a great formula, but of course, you've got to put this into practice. And I would suggest trying out different types of content, right? Trying out video, trying out static posts, trying out written posts, and seeing who's engaging. Another thing that I would do on LinkedIn is I would start to um, comment and engage in people's posts, because it's kind of like a tit for tat world. Like, if you are engaging in someone's post, they're going to want to return the favor and engage with you, especially if you are delivering valuable content. That's why the first step of connecting and following different people in the industry that you want to emulate and that serve as an example to you are actually really important, because once you've identified the key players that you want to connect with, you can start commenting on their posts and engaging in their posts in a consistent manner, so that eventually them or somebody in their network will engage consistently with you as well. So understanding the audience. So that's the first step. Number two, investigating the type of content, right? What is working for people within your industry? Is it video? Is it a static post? Is it just a written post? All these different types of ways of communicating with people, start to notice it. And number three, experiment, right? Experiment by creating your own posts, experiment by commenting on other people's posts, and see where that takes you. There's not a hard science to it. You just need to kind of figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And the fourth thing that I would do on LinkedIn if I was an artist or I was a creative person, is I would want to establish myself as a thought leader. So if you are, and this kind of goes back to the type of content that you want to put out. So if you are, for example, a singer, right, and you are specialized in like jazz singing, you can start to actually post content about it, but you can utilize LinkedIn publications and post full-blown articles on, for example, the difference between, like, using your head voice versus using your chest voice, right? These are different sorts of content that will help to establish you as a thought leader, and i.e. somebody with authority on the subject matter. Again, this is something that takes practice. This is something that you have to kind of feel out and decide if it's what you want to do. But I think that utilizing LinkedIn as an artist is something that is kind of like your hidden tool. Like, you want to be able to understand that different platforms operate in different ways, and that even though LinkedIn is used by non-creators for the most part, you can utilize it to your advantage, right? Once you start connecting with the different companies, the different HR, the different potential colleagues, and you're delivering value, you can create conversations and you can create opportunities to network, right? So there's nothing more beautiful about connecting with somebody that has a career that you want to emulate, and then having a conversation with them, inviting them, out for coffee where you are paying, of course, or having a Zoom meeting where you are kind of asking really interesting questions and developing that connection. Now, how does this all relate to the O1 visa? How does this relate to the green card? And I promise you that there is a nexus, there is a connection. The way it relates to your O1 or your EB1A or your EB2 or any sort of work-based green card is that people connect and work with people that they know. I mean, a lot of the times I have clients who are like, how am I going to get a job? I really want to work in the US. And I think that, I qualify and I will tend, if they're my client, then I will agree that they qualify. But how do you get a job? Because you cannot file for an O1 without a job opportunity, without a future job. Now, LinkedIn is one of those tools, if it is utilized in a strategic way, where you can create the connections with people to eventually do some sort of work. But of course, if you're just jumping on LinkedIn today, you're expecting a job offer tomorrow, of course, it's not going to work. But if you are consistently on the platform in a thoughtful and valuable way and creating connections with people, then hey, maybe somebody is going to want to sign the letter of recommendation that is necessary for both the EB1A, the EB2, and the O1. Or maybe somebody is going to want to propose a project for you because they're seeing your thoughtful, your provocative, your interesting content that you're delivering every day. This is something that is really, it's a skill. It takes time. It's something that you need to it's something that you need to do. And I think that by not utilizing LinkedIn to the best of your ability, you're really losing out on different opportunities for you to connect with the major players in your industry. Now, the non-creative industries, you guys, you already do this on LinkedIn, but it's the theater performers, it's the models, it's the influencers. If you're an influencer, you want to connect with brands. You want to show brands that you are able to generate engagement on different types of platforms so that you're more palatable to different types of audiences. So again, there's nothing bad about using LinkedIn. I think that a lot of the times creatives will use the other platforms to the exclusion of LinkedIn without really adopting strategy. And I understand that LinkedIn can be very boring. It can be very boring. It can also be very intimidating if you're not approaching this with an open mind. So I would really just encourage you to see LinkedIn as a tool that creators can use. And if anything else, you would be one of the few theater performers, film actors who are using LinkedIn in a sensible and valuable way that makes you stand out. Because I use social media in almost all of my petitions. Your social media numbers are just as important as the press articles that you generate within your career, as the publications that you write within your career. Why wouldn't I use the fact that you've got 50,000 connections on LinkedIn? I do it for YouTube and LinkedIn, YouTube and TikTok and all these different platforms. Why wouldn't I do it for LinkedIn? Why would I not utilize those numbers which work within petitions? The numbers that you generate within social media serve the purpose of me being able to prove your reach, your impact within the industry. So this is something that is extremely, I would say, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's important, but I would say you owe it to yourself to give yourself that good faith at trying to utilize LinkedIn in the most strategic way possible for your career and for your possible petitions. Again, creatives and artists tend to utilize other social media platforms to the exclusion of LinkedIn. And I would go as far as to say that if you are a creative, you should be using all of the social media platforms. You should be you should be developing social media. You should be trying to get the numbers. What I always tell my clients is, listen, if I have more engagement than you, then something is wrong, because I'm just the lawyer. You as a creative person, you can say a lot more appeal to different types of individuals. I'm a lawyer. A lot of the times, law is very boring to a lot of people. But if your lawyer has more engagement and more followers than you, then that shows that you're not doing probably the best job that you can with social media. And a lot of the times, creatives, they won't have ideas on what sort of content to create. They just won't know what to do. And this is why having the legal marketing meeting with me is actually really, really important, because I give you different forms of content ideas. I really want to hone in the importance of social media for a petition, especially if you are the type of creative or artist who maybe did not do as much work as he or she would have liked within her OPT or his OPT. So, for example, I have a client who is a performer, but did not do any sort of performance work or traditional theatrical work during her OPT, meaning that she did not have a lot of work for me to utilize because she had done high school projects back in her home country, came to college in the US, and then just didn't work. What she did do, or what she did have for me to utilize, was her social media. So I was able to successfully argue this case was approved in 5 days premium processing. I was able to successfully argue and articulate that this client was basically using TikTok as her digital stage. So the transformation of theater and of film and TV and streaming was being done in real time with my client because she was expanding the definition of performing by utilizing social media digital streaming platforms. And this was a winning argument, and the case was won and was approved. And the same thing can be done with LinkedIn. You can absolutely use LinkedIn as your teaching platform. You can absolutely use LinkedIn as a way to educate, as a way to publish articles. Publications are an important part of any petition. You can use this to create connections and develop large amounts of followers. There's so much that you can do on LinkedIn. It's a shame that artists don't utilize it to maximize their abilities, or maximize their reach, maximize the different sorts of opportunities that they can garner, and create the connections. Right, like one of the really important things about being a creative and being an artist is creating connections that are just beyond your circle of people. And this was especially important during COVID, right? Where people were doing a lot of digital work, connecting with people on in digital ways because I mean, nobody could go out. And it's important to continue that. And I would really urge you to think about delivering value to the other person, to the person that you're connecting with. And what does that mean? What does delivering value mean? It means, like, for example, if you are connecting with somebody who is, I don't know, like a cinematographer, right? A DP, then maybe when you're sending the message, you might reference, a new director, or, a DP that has recently won an award, or reference the fact that you studied this person's profile and you're, applauding them on their professional achievements. Whatever it is, you want to deliver value. You don't want to immediately seek out something from somebody. It's just never going to work out. It's like when somebody, emails me like, hey, I'm looking for a job. That's not necessarily the best way to approach connecting with somebody whose career you're interested in, or whose professional achievements you think very highly of. So this was a lot to unpack. I might actually just write an article summing up what we've discussed. But the whole point of this live was to not force you guys, but encourage you guys to think about your career in a very intentional way. I say this time and time again: artists do not need to be starving artists. You can absolutely work. You can absolutely work and have a very fruitful career. You can have anything that you want. You just really need to be intentional about it. And especially with like US work visas, you want to be very strategic with your time. So someone asked, hi, can a performer work on US waters, cruise ship contracts by obtaining an O1B visa? So I think what you want to say is, can you work on a cruise ship, or can you work on a body of water with an O1 visa? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I have many clients who work on Disney cruises and all different types of cruises, and I've secured the O1 for them. So the definition of work for O1 is pretty expansive, in the sense that there's a lot of different types of non-traditional work that can be included within an O1 petition. So the answer is yes. That's a really great question. But yeah, I mean, I will go live tomorrow. I've been getting a lot of questions that I haven't been noting down via email, but I'll try to address them tomorrow during a live, and talk about more specific things within a petition. I've also gotten requests to do my lives in different languages. I speak French and Italian and Spanish. So I might do a live in a different language. So those are the languages that I speak. So if you are French or Canadian or West African and you prefer French, I can do it in French, Italian. I can speak in Italian and in Spanish. So I've gotten a couple of those requests. I will be doing that throughout the week, even though the week is almost over and summer's almost over. And for those of you who want to end the last quarter with a bang by being in the US, now is a time to really think about the petition. Now is a time to really think about, how you want to frame your case. If you want to start a case, all of that is, things that you should be thinking about, because sometimes like once September hits and fall starts, it's just like, very, very, very quick, because people want to get here. People want to get here by January. When the new year starts, and then pilot season, in LA and Atlanta in the spring. So yeah, so like I said, I personally like to go out with a bang for the last quarter. In the summertime, we're working on a lot of rush cases, so clients who want to be in the US, in early September, just because of what's going on with Fashion Week, etc. So September is when the last quarter starts. Even if it's not the O1 or EB1A, you want to really work on your career with intention. And I think that whether it's the O1 or EB1A, or you're just an artist in general, really start to think strategically about your career, about the work that you're doing, and about about like the impact. When I was in college and I was studying filmmaking and things like that, I really worked really hard to create a lot of opportunities for myself, because in New York you have to kind of do it. You have to kind of create your own opportunities, because it's such a competitive city that you really have to work hard to stand out. And probably even more so in places that it's not New York, where the film industry is like dead, or photography is dead. I mean, you have to just work a little bit harder in places that are not, I think, art centric. And there are very few art centric places in the world. There are a couple, but mostly they're in the States. So I think the LinkedIn video, this one and my previous video, it's really just about thinking and working and addressing your career with intention. Do you help with getting a global talent visa? So I'm a New York licensed attorney. So I do US visas. So I don't do, for example, the German artist visa. I don't do the UK artist visa or the Canadian visas. I do American O1 visas, because I'm a New York licensed attorney. So sometimes clients might confuse that with other visa types, but I do the O1A, or also known as the artist visa, to work legally in the US as an artist or as a creative. So I think I have videos on like what an artist is, what a creative person is. I have done artist visas for glamour models, OnlyFans models, food photographers, food models. So like, have you ever seen like the models that like put like a burger in their mouth? If I can argue that you use creativity and artistry in the work that you do, then you can qualify as an artist. So thing that's really unique about our firm is that we will do architects and people who work in marketing and PR as creatives, as opposed to business O1A, which is a higher legal standard. So I work with all different types of talent, even non-traditional talent, hairstylists, nail techs, makeup artists, permanent makeup artists. We just recently did a case on a permanent makeup artist specialized in areola tattoos. So yeah, I mean, I guess the answer to your question is yes, I do US O1 or artist visas for international talent. So non-US talent, non-American talent, to work physically in the US. That is what we are known for. We are a New York City based firm. And that is what we're known for in New York and in the United States. We have clients everywhere in the country, California, Florida, New York, Chicago. Um, so yeah, I hope that answers your question. Um, anyway, to get back to the point of the video, the whole point of the video was to help you guys understand, to think about your career with intention, think about your career in a strategic way. And all of this strategy, all of this tactic will eventually bleed into whatever petition you choose to file or not file. I think it's just important to understand that the arts is a very business oriented industry. You could be great at what you do, but that's not necessarily what is going to get you to the next level, if that makes sense. A lot of people are good at what they do. A lot of artists and creatives are bad about the business aspect of their career, which is so necessary for excelling in your career and also super necessary for being successful with an O1, an EB1A, or an EB2. So I hope that this was helpful. As you can see, I'm in my office, but I will be live tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, because as I said, this is kind of rush season for us. We are filing a lot of rush cases for people who want to be in New York or be in the States for the last quarter, so September 1. But I will go live tomorrow, probably in the afternoon. I'm not super sure yet, but I hope that this was helpful. This is just a follow-up to my first video that I did like 2 years ago or 3 years ago about LinkedIn for artists and how LinkedIn is super important for artists and creatives in terms of networking and developing connections, in terms of creating strategic partnerships with different brands, different companies that you follow, that you want to emulate. And number three, for utilizing it as a social media platform to increase your reach and engagement, which is what I use within my petitions for people who have those sorts of numbers. So you don't need to go crazy. You don't need to have like 50,000 followers, but developing those followers is super important if you're working with an attorney like me, because I utilize those numbers, and they tend to make the difference in a case that is a weak case versus a case that is a cookie cutter or a strong case. So I hope that this was helpful. Again, it's a follow-up to my previous video, and I'm going to finalize a case. I have a portfolio behind me, a petition behind me. So I'm going to finalize that, and I will see everybody tomorrow. The request that I had to speak in Spanish, I will do it later this week. I'll try to do either French, English, French, Italian, or Spanish. And hopefully that will satisfy the requests that we've been getting. So thank you everybody so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye everybody.